The sun setting over the French Riviera casts a long, amber shadow across the cliffs of Villefranche-sur-Mer, illuminating a structure that seems to belong more to the realm of myth than to the modern world. This is the Villa Leopolda, a monument of limestone and marble that stands as a silent witness to a century of excess, heartbreak, and the complex machinery of European power. To the casual observer, it is merely the world's most expensive piece of real estate, a sprawling estate of emerald gardens and neoclassical facades valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet, beneath the polished surface of its terraced orchards and the stillness of its swimming pools lies a narrative haunted by the ghosts of a king's obsession. The stones of this villa do not just speak of wealth. They whisper of a secret love that scandalized a continent and a monarch who was willing to risk the stability of his throne for a teenage girl who the world would come to know as the Baroness of the Lilies. To understand the haunted grandeur of the Leopolda, one must travel back to a time when the Côte d'Azur was a wild, sun-drenched frontier of the European elite, and when King Leopold II of Belgium looked upon this specific stretch of Mediterranean coast not as a statesman, but as a man consumed by a desire that would define his twilight years. The year was 1902, and Leopold II was already a figure of immense controversy, a monarch whose vast personal fortune was built upon the brutal exploitation of the Congo Free State. He was a man of cold intellect and architectural ambition, often referred to as the Builder King, yet his personal life was a hollow shell of arranged marriages and public duty. This changed when he encountered Caroline Lacroix, a 16-year-old girl of modest origins whose beauty possessed a magnetic quality that shattered the king's legendary discipline. Leopold was 65, a towering, bearded patriarch of the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, but in Caroline, he found a vitality that his royal life lacked. He ensconced her in a world of unimaginable luxury, bestowing upon her the title of Baroness von, yet no palace in Brussels could provide the privacy or the romantic stage he craved. He looked toward the south of France, toward the heights of the Cap Ferret, and envisioned a sanctuary that would serve as both a testament to his love and a fortress against the prying eyes of the Belgian press and the disapproval of his own children. Construction began on a scale that defied the logic of the era. Leopold did not merely want a house, he wanted a terrestrial paradise that would outshine the villas of the Rothschilds and the Grand Dukes of Russia. He began acquiring vast tracts of land, eventually amassing over 50 acres of the most prestigious soil on earth. The king was obsessed with the details of the landscape, ordering the planting of thousands of olive, orange, and lemon trees, and insisting on a topographical layout that allowed for sweeping, unobstructed views of the Mediterranean. However, this was not a project of altruism or public pride. The locals watched with a mixture of awe and resentment as the king's secret world rose behind high walls. The villa was intended to be a gilded cage for Caroline, a place where the aging monarch could escape the crushing weight of his colonial legacy and the growing international outcry over his reign. The architecture itself reflected this duality, grand, imposing, and regal on the outside, yet designed with intimate chambers and hidden corridors that spoke of a private, almost desperate intimacy. As the walls of the original structure rose, the relationship between the king and Caroline became the centerpiece of European gossip, a haunted romance that seemed to cast a shadow over the estate before it was even completed. The king's obsession grew into a form of madness. He spent millions of francs on jewels, clothing, and the maintenance of the estate, all while his legitimate daughters were kept at a distance. The Villa Leopolda was becoming a physical manifestation of a king's betrayal of his family and his country. Inside the halls, the air was thick with the scent of lilies, Caroline's favorite flower, but outside, the political winds were turning. The grandeur of the villa was built on a foundation of Belgian colonial wealth, a fact that added a layer of darkness to its beauty. The king spent his final years pacing these terraces, looking out over the sea, perhaps realizing that his secret love could never truly be protected from the judgment of history. The villa was nearly finished when the king's health began to fail, and the tragic realization dawned that the Baroness von might never truly belong in the high society that the Leopolda was designed to dominate. The death of Leopold II in 1909 did not bring peace to the Villa Leopolda. Instead, it ignited a firestorm of legal battles and social ostracization that would solidify the estate's reputation as a place of tragic displacement. As the king lay on his deathbed, He reportedly married Caroline in a religious ceremony that the Belgian government refused to recognize, leaving the Baroness of the Lilies in a precarious state of legal limbo. Almost immediately after the monarch's heart ceased to beat, the Belgian state and Leopold's estranged daughters moved to reclaim the estate, viewing it not as a home of love, but as a monument to their father's infidelity and financial recklessness. Caroline was unceremoniously evicted from the paradise the king had built for her, forced to watch from a distance as the gates of the Leopolda were locked. The villa, once a hive of architectural ambition, fell into a period of eerie silence. It became a white elephant on the Mediterranean, a grand skeleton of stone that served as a painful reminder of a disgraced reign. For years, the gardens grew wild. The thousands of olive trees Leopold had meticulously planted began to gnarl in neglect, and the local population whispered that the spirit of the king still wandered the terraces, unable to let go of the woman or the land he had colonized with his passion. The onset of the First World War transformed the villa from a site of royal scandal into a sanctuary of suffering. The Belgian government, now the official owners, converted the sprawling estate into a military hospital to care for the wounded soldiers returning from the horrific trenches of the Western Front. The grand ballrooms, once intended for silken gowns and orchestral waltzes, were filled with the smell of antiseptic and the groans of dying men. It was a surreal juxtaposition, the most beautiful view in the world serving as the backdrop for the carnage of modern warfare. This period added a somber, hallowed layer to the villa's history, as the haunted grandeur shifted from the ghosts of a secret love to the very real shadows of a generation of broken soldiers. When the war finally ended, the villa was left exhausted, its interiors scarred by its time as a place of healing. It wasn't until the 1920s that the estate would find a new architect of its destiny in the form of Ogden Codman Jr., an American architect and interior designer who saw beneath the decay and recognized the villa's potential to become the ultimate expression of the Belle Époque revival. Codman's acquisition of the villa in 1929 marked its true architectural rebirth, as he embarked on a mission to transform Leopold's unfinished dream into a masterpiece of neoclassical symmetry. Codman was a man of fastidious taste, the co-author of The Decoration of Houses with Edith Wharton, and he despised the gaudy excesses of the late Victorian era. He set about demolishing parts of the original structure to create the Villa Leopolda, as it is known today, a seamless blend of Palladian elegance and Mediterranean warmth. He spent a fortune on the renovation, integrating salvaged architectural elements from across Europe, including ornate chimneypieces and rare floorings, to give the villa an air of ancient, established nobility. However, the curse of the Leopolda seemed to linger even for Codman. His obsession with the house mirrored that of King Leopold. He poured his entire soul and remaining wealth into the stones, only to find himself a prisoner of his own creation. By the time the house reached its peak of perfection, the Great Depression had decimated Codman's finances. The man who had spent his life defining the house beautiful for the American elite found himself living in a magnificent palace he could no longer afford to maintain, wandering through the vast, empty rooms as a ghost of the Gilded Age. The villa's story took another dramatic turn as the clouds of the Second World War gathered over Europe. As the Nazis occupied France, the Leopolda's strategic location and sheer scale made it a target for the high command of the Third Reich. It is whispered in local lore that the villa was eyed by the most powerful men in Hitler's circle, who coveted its prestige. The estate once again transitioned from a private home to a piece of geopolitical chess, its tunnels and cellars rumored to have been used for clandestine purposes during the occupation. Throughout these dark years, the villa stood as a silent sentinel, its pink-hued walls reflecting the flashes of naval battles in the distance. When the war concluded, the villa emerged once more into the light, but it was no longer just a house. It had become a symbol of survival. It awaited a new era of owners who would bring glamour back to its halls, figures like the billionaire Johnny Agnelli and eventually the Safra family, but the foundation of its story remained rooted in that original, forbidden pact between an aging king and his secret mistress. The grandeur remained, but so did the feeling that the villa belonged to no one person, but rather to the tumultuous history of the century itself. The post-war era ushered in a chapter of unparalleled social brilliance for the Villa Leopolda, yet the air of tragic isolation never truly evaporated. In the 1950s, the estate became the crown jewel of Johnny Agnelli, the legendary head of Fiat and the uncrowned king of Italy. Under Agnelli's tenure, the villa reached its zenith as a theater of the global elite. The terraces that once felt the heavy, brooding footsteps of Leopold II were now graced by the presence of Hollywood royalty, American presidents, and the titans of industry. It was during this period that the villa solidified its place in cinematic history, its sweeping staircases and iconic gardens serving as the backdrop for Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief. The film immortalized the villa's haunted grandeur, capturing the shimmering tension between the sun-drenched beauty of the Riviera and the dark, sophisticated secrets of its inhabitants. Grace Kelly and Cary Grant moved through a landscape that seemed almost too perfect to be real, a dreamscape constructed from the labor of thousands and the whims of a king. Yet, even for a man as powerful as Agnelli, the Leopolda was a demanding mistress. The sheer cost of maintaining its 20 acres of gardens and its legion of staff eventually led him to pass the torch to a new dynasty, one that would bring the villa's story to its most poignant and somber conclusion. In 1987, the villa was acquired by Edmond Safra, the world-renowned Lebanese-Brazilian banker, and his wife, Lily. For the Safras, the Leopolda was more than a trophy. It was a sanctuary of profound security and domestic elegance. They poured their vast resources into restoring the gardens to their original Leopoldian splendor, employing dozens of full-time gardeners to tend to the 1,200 olive trees and the endless rows of cypress and lemon. The interior was transformed into a museum-quality residence, filled with masterworks of art and priceless antiques. However, the haunted nature of the estate seemed to manifest once more in a preoccupation with safety. Edmond Safra, a man of immense wealth but also deep-seated anxieties regarding his personal security, turned the villa into a high-tech fortress. The contrast was stark. The soft, neoclassical aesthetic of the exterior hid a complex web of surveillance and reinforced chambers. This obsession with protection proved tragically ironic. In 1999, though it occurred at their nearby penthouse in Monaco rather than within the villa's walls, Edmond Safra perished in a fire, leaving Lily Safra as the sole mistress of the Leopolda. The villa became a gilded monument to her late husband, a place of immense beauty that was also a house of mourning. The 21st century brought a bizarre and highly publicized episode that underscored the villa's status as an almost cursed object of desire. In 2008, rumors swirled that the Russian oligarch Mikhail Prokhorov had agreed to purchase the Villa Leopolda for a staggering €370 million, a price that would have made it the most expensive private home in history. However, as the global financial crisis struck, the deal collapsed in a spectacular fashion. The ensuing legal battle over the €39 million deposit became a tabloid sensation, pitting the mourning billionaire Lily Safra against the ambitious Russian tycoon. When the French courts eventually ruled in Safra's favor, she donated the entire sum to various charities, including research into Parkinson's disease, the affliction that had burdened Edmond. This act of philanthropy finally seemed to break the cycle of greed that had defined the villa's origins. The Leopolda was no longer just a symbol of Leopold's colonial exploitation or a banker's fortress. It had become a vehicle for a legacy of healing, perhaps finally atoning for the shadows cast by its first owner. Today, the Villa Leopolda stands as a silent sentinel above the Mediterranean, its pink walls softened by the salt air and its gardens a lush, emerald blanket over the cliffs. It remains one of the most private and enigmatic estates in the world, rarely glimpsed by the public except from the sea or through the gates that still guard its long, winding driveway. The haunted grandeur of the villa lies not in literal ghosts, but in the layers of human ambition, love, and tragedy that have soaked into its foundations. From King Leopold's desperate, secret love for Caroline Lacroix to the quiet elegance of the Safra years, the villa has seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth of cinema, and the shifting tides of global wealth. It is a place where the past is never truly gone, where the scent of lilies still seems to linger in the evening breeze, reminding us that even the most magnificent structures are ultimately built on the fragile, fleeting emotions of the people who call them home. The forgotten story of the Villa Leopolda is, in the end, a story of the human heart's eternal desire to build something that lasts forever, even when the loves that inspired them have long since turned to dust. To truly grasp the haunted grandeur of the Villa Leopolda, one must look beyond the scandalous headlines and the astronomical price tags to examine the physical soul of the estate, the architecture and the interior landscapes that were designed to reflect the inner world of its inhabitants. When Ogden Codman Jr. took over the estate in the late 1920s, he viewed the villa not merely as a house, but as a manifesto of the decoration of houses. He believed that a room should be as mathematically perfect as a symphony, and at the Leopolda, he achieved a level of neoclassical purity that had rarely been seen since the days of Palladio. The central block of the villa is a masterclass in proportion, featuring a double-height entrance hall that acts as a sensory threshold, moving the visitor from the blinding light of the Mediterranean into a world of cool, shadowed marble and whispered echoes. Every fireplace, every molding, and every terrace railing was either hand-picked from the ruins of old European manor houses or custom-crafted to evoke a sense of timelessness. This was a deliberate attempt to erase the new money stench of Leopold's colonial wealth and replace it with the patina of ancient nobility. Codman's genius lay in his ability to create enfilades, long vistas of aligned doorways that allow the eye to travel through the entire length of the house, creating an illusion of infinite space and a haunting sense that someone is always just out of sight in the next room. The gardens of the Leopolda are perhaps where the haunted quality of the estate is most palpable, serving as a botanical record of the king's original obsession. Spanning nearly 20 acres, the terraces are supported by massive stone retaining walls that required the labor of hundreds of Italian stonemasons to construct. Leopold II, a man who viewed nature as something to be conquered and curated, ordered the importation of exotic flora from across the globe, but it is the native olive trees that hold the true weight of the past. Some of these trees are estimated to be over 1,000 years old, their twisted, silver-leaf trunks standing like silent sentinels that watched the Baroness Vaughan walk these paths in her exile. Under the Safra family, these gardens were meticulously preserved, with a staff of 50 gardeners working daily to ensure that not a single leaf was out of place. This level of perfection creates an atmosphere that is almost eerie. The gardens are so perfectly maintained that they feel frozen in time, a living museum where the wind rustling through the cypress trees sounds like the rustle of a silk skirt on a terrace. There is a specific tension here between the vibrant life of the Mediterranean flora and the rigid, formal geometry of the French landscape design, a reflection of the struggle between the wild passions that founded the villa and the cold, protective walls built to contain them. Beneath the surface of this beauty lies a hidden infrastructure of secrecy that has evolved with each owner. During the Cold War and the subsequent rise of global terrorism, the villa was rumored to have been outfitted with subterranean bunkers and secure communications rooms that rivaled those of small nation-states. Edmond Safra, a man whose life was defined by the movement of invisible capital and the management of high-stakes risk, viewed the Leopolda as his ultimate, safe room. The villa's thick walls and isolated location provided a sense of security that was both physical and psychological. This era of the villa's history introduced a new kind of ghost, the ghost of paranoia. The grand windows that offer some of the most beautiful views in the world are made of ballistic glass, and the lush shrubbery conceals a web of infrared sensors and thermal cameras. This transformation from a king's romantic hideaway to a banker's high-tech fortress speaks to a shift in the nature of power itself, moving from the overt, territorial displays of the 19th century monarchy to the invisible, guarded wealth of the 21st century financial elite. The villa, in its quiet majesty, absorbed these changes without losing its essential character, remaining a place where the world's most powerful people come to hide their vulnerabilities behind a facade of indestructible grandeur. As one wanders through the library, a room Codman designed with floor-to-ceiling oak shelving and a view that captures the entire sweep of the Cap Ferret, the weight of history becomes almost tactile. Each book, each antique vase, and each Persian rug was selected to provide a sense of continuity in a world that was rapidly changing outside the villa's gates. There is a profound loneliness inherent in such a space. It is a house built for entertaining hundreds, yet often occupied by only a few individuals surrounded by their memories and their guards. The haunted grandeur is found in this very contrast. The villa is a stage built for a drama that has already been performed, leaving the current inhabitants to walk through the scenery of other people's lives. The legacy of the secret love that started it all remains the dominant frequency of the estate, a reminder that no amount of marble or security technology can fully protect a heart from the complications of desire and the inevitable passage of time. The Villa Leopolda does not just hold history, it traps it, preserving the ambitions and heartbreaks of its owners like insects in amber, offered up for the Mediterranean sun to illuminate but never to release. The final movement of the Villa Leopolda's long and storied history is perhaps the most contemplative, as the estate has transitioned from a theater of active scandal and high-stakes power into a monument of historical synthesis. In the years following the resolution of the Prokhorov dispute, the villa has stood as a silent witness to a world that is increasingly transparent, yet its own walls remain as impenetrable as ever. To walk through the Grand Salon today, a room where the light reflects off the polished parquetry and the heavy silk curtains frame the blue expanse of the Mediterranean, is to experience a profound sense of the long duration of history. The ghosts of the past have been integrated into the very fabric of the house. One can almost see the reflection of King Leopold II in the tall, gilded mirrors, his mind preoccupied with the logistics of his African empire while his heart remained tethered to the young girl waiting in these very rooms. But these are no longer spirits of malice or unrest. They have become part of the villa's legendary patina. The house has achieved a state of grace where the sins of its founders and the tragedies of its subsequent owners have been smoothed over by the relentless beauty of the landscape and the passage of decades. It serves as a reminder that architectural grandeur, when executed with such conviction, possesses the power to outlast the reputations of those who commissioned it. The legacy of Lily Safra, who passed away in 2022, added the final layer of human complexity to the Leopolda. Her long tenure as the Queen of the Riviera transformed the villa into a symbol of quiet, dignified endurance. Under her stewardship, the estate was not merely a place of consumption, but a hub of immense philanthropic reach. The auctions of her jewelry and the donations made in the name of the villa's legacy have funded hospitals, schools, and scientific research across the globe. This represents the ultimate irony of the Leopolda's journey. An estate built on the red rubber of the Congo and the clandestine desires of a predatory monarch eventually became a source of healing for thousands who will never even see its gates. This moral evolution is the true, haunted grandeur of the property, the way in which the heavy, dark origins of a place can be transmuted through time and intentionality into something that serves a higher purpose. The villa stands not as a monument to greed, but as a testament to the possibility of redemption, proving that even the most shadowed histories can eventually find their way into the light. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon of Villefranche-sur-Mer, the Villa Leopolda takes on a surreal, ethereal glow. The limestone turns from a creamy white to a deep, bruised violet, and the lights of the terraces begin to twinkle like a constellation fallen to earth. From this vantage point, the villa seems to float between the sea and the sky, disconnected from the mundane world below. It remains a king's secret love, in the sense that it represents the universal human impulse to create a sanctuary, a place where the rules of the world do not apply and where beauty is the only law. The forgotten story is not that the villa exists, for it is known to all who study the annals of wealth, but rather the story of the souls who tried to find peace within its walls and found instead that a house of such magnitude demands as much as it gives. The Leopolda is a mirror held up to the century it has inhabited, reflecting the brilliance of the Belle Époque, the trauma of the world wars, the glamour of the jet-set era, and the digital age obsession with security and privacy. The conclusion of this cinematic journey through the stones of the Leopolda leaves us with a lingering question about the nature of heritage. Does a building belong to the person whose name is on the deed, or to the history that it has witnessed? As the wind carries the scent of the thousand-year-old olive trees and the distant sound of the surf, it becomes clear that the Villa Leopolda belongs to the Mediterranean itself. It is a permanent fixture of the coast, a landmark for sailors and a dream for poets. It will continue to stand long after the current names are forgotten, its haunted grandeur growing richer with every passing year. The secret love of a king gave it life, the vision of an architect gave it form, and the tragedies of the 20th century gave it a soul. Today, it remains the ultimate expression of the human desire to be remembered, a magnificent, limestone echo of a past that refuses to be silenced, standing guard over the secrets of the Côte d'Azur for as long as the waves continue to hit the shore. Quote,